Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 6th of January. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Reference to the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island has been restored to the CIA World Factbook's map of Korea. The US agency said it briefly disappeared due to a glitch. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe promises to express remorse for Japan's atrocities during World War II in his statement, marking the 70th anniversary of the war's end in August. Plus, China notifies Seoul that it executed a Korean national last week on charges of smuggling and selling illegal drugs in the country. But we begin with news that the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island has been restored to the CIA World Factbook's map of Korea. The change came about after it was found that, following its latest update, the US intelligence agency's map did not refer to or even show Dokdo when visitors clicked on Korea, but showed it on the map of Japan, which continues to make territorial claims on the Korean islets. The CIA told Korea's foreign ministry that Dokdo, referred to as the Liankou rocks on the map, as you can see there, was not shown due to technical glitches as they were modifying all their maps. Up until this glitch, the CIA World Factbook had marked the Liankou rocks on maps of Korea and Japan. The Factbook uses Sea of Japan, as you can see there, for the body of water between Korea and Japan. And Korea wants the US to acknowledge that Koreans call it the East Sea and put both names for that body of water on their map. Now, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has pledged to show remorse for Japan's behaviour during World War II in a statement to mark the 70th anniversary of the conflict's end. That's going to come in summer. Some analysts had speculated that Abe, who is a right-wing nationalist, might attempt to downplay Japan's responsibility for the war. Ji Myung-gil reports.
Giving his first news conference of the year on Monday, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he plans to write off Japan's remorse over its actions during the war and its post-war history as a pacifist nation.
Our cabinet will reflect on what we did wrong during the Second World War and on our progress as a peace-loving nation. We will gather our knowledge to bring about a new statement on how to contribute further to the Asia-Pacific region and the world.
As Japan gears up to mark the 70th anniversary of the end of the war on August 15th, Prime Minister Abe said he had no intention of trying to reinterpret Japan's historical wrongdoings.
We will continue to adopt the stance of previous cabinets with regards to the interpretation of history, including the Murayama statement.
On the 50th anniversary of the war's end in August 1995, then Prime Minister Tomiichi Murayama said Japan caused tremendous damage and suffering to Asia through its colonial rule and aggression, and expressed a heartfelt apology. Korea and China will be paying close attention to whether Abe will uphold the Murayama statement. This year has been identified as a chance for Tokyo to rebuild its strained ties with Seoul and Beijing. Relations have been chilled by territorial disputes and Abe's distorted views of wartime history. Watchers say that if Abe sticks to his word and offers a sincere apology, it could present a golden opportunity for Korea, China, and Japan to build stronger ties this year and create a more peaceful and forward-looking atmosphere in Northeast Asia. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, a top US security expert has warned South Korea and the United States to brace themselves for nuclear and ballistic missile tests by North Korea this year. Victor Cha, who is the chief Korea analyst for the Center for Strategic and International Studies, says the tests could demonstrate Pyongyang's crossing of a new technology threshold, such as warhead miniaturization. Cha adds that North Korea could use any number of pretexts to conduct a test, including the upcoming annual joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington and the recent US sanctions linked to the Sony Pictures hacking. He also cautioned against reading too much into North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech, in which he called for improved inter-Korean relations. A diplomatic row between Seoul and Beijing could be brewing after Chinese authorities waited almost 1 week to notify Seoul that a Korean national was executed in China for drug-related offences. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Korea's foreign ministry said Beijing notified it on Monday that a Korean man with a family name Kim was executed for drug-related offenses. Word came 6 days after the death sentence was administered. Beijing said the late notice was due to year-end administrative delays. Ministry officials called the execution incomprehensible, given that they had repeatedly asked China for clemency on Kim's behalf. The ministry said it regrets the execution took place despite numerous requests to Beijing to refrain from going through with the execution. It added that it plans to boost cooperation with related countries to further prevent Korean citizens from being involved in drug-related crimes. Kim's execution has called into question the effectiveness of a Council pact between Korea and China that was signed in July and awaits ratification in Korea. Under the pact, the two sides agreed to notify the other within 4 days when a national of that country is held into custody and immediately if it involves a death sentence. This is not the first time a Korean national has been executed for drug-related offenses in China. In August last year, 2 Koreans were executed for smuggling and trading drugs. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now back here in South Korea, and President Park Geun-hye is calling on the country's business community to help the economy take its next step, saying it's time to push the Korean economy forward over the next 30 years. In a New Year's address on Monday that was attended by some 1,500 corporate executives and politicians, President Park said firms must expand their investments and take sweeping measures to propel the economy into the future.
특히 해외 진출 경험과 네트워크를 갖고 있는 대기업이 중소기업의 해외 동반 진출에 적극적인 관심을 가져주시기 바랍니다.
And President of the Korea Chamber of Commerce, Park Young-man, said he expects the Korean economy to do better than last year on the back of a rosier global economy. He added the country has to overcome its low birth rate and aging population to find the next growth engine. Now, a political scandal that's been brewing for weeks now appears to have lost its legs. The prosecution's preliminary results have determined that what they found in the recently leaked presidential documents we are going to hear about shortly was false. Kwon So-ah has the details.
Prosecutors have indicted a former presidential secretary on charges that he had ordered a leak of confidential documents from the presidential office. They found the documents to be fake.
We have conducted a broad investigation and found the documents to be false.
The scandal dating back to November with a local report alleging that President Park Geun-hye's former aide Chung Yun-hye held secret meetings with presidential secretaries seeking to drive out the current presidential chief of staff. Prosecutors say the meetings never happened. The scandal has stirred up the political arena in recent weeks and aroused criticism from the public, who want more transparency at the presidential office. And over the prosecution's preliminary announcement on Monday, Korea's rival political parties continued with their clash. The ruling party said the suspicions were absurd to begin with.
This is a breach of code of conduct that involved unverified information reported in a presidential document which led to chaos.
The main opposition party said no one will trust the probe's conclusion, calling for a special investigation into the case.
The prosecution has come up with a conclusion customized to the presidential office. The truth hasn't been revealed.
The presidential office of Cheongwade says it won't be making an official comment on the prosecution's findings. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Now, there's relative optimism in the search for AirAsia Flight 8501 that search crews have now located the tail of the plane, and that could potentially contain the black box, which could hopefully explain this mystery to us. For more on this story, we're going to turn to Eunice Kim at the News Centre. So, Eunice, there is a glimmer of hope now in what has otherwise been a really frustrating battle against the elements.
That's right, Mark. That battle has resumed for today. Now, the 9th day of search operations on Monday was still very much mired by poor visibility and rainy and foggy conditions. But one captain of an Indonesian Navy patrol ship said there is a high probability that his crew has found what appears to be the tail of a plane. Now, that captain, Yayan Sofyan, told a press conference on Monday that the tail should contain the flight data and voice recorder that would help investigators assess what caused Flight 8501 to go down 10 days ago. We must add, however, Indonesia's chief of search and rescue, Bambang Solistio, has not confirmed this yet, only to say that they are working to confirm it. Now, divers had to cut their underwater search short once again on Monday due to strong underwater currents and near zero visibility. 3 more bodies were recovered, bringing the count to 37. Authorities have widened their search area off of Borneo Island as a multinational team of more than 40 vessels in the skies and on the seas scour the region.
Well, Eunice, we hope, of course, that the elements are kinder to the search efforts today, and hopefully they can find that black box. Now, it was a day to forget for financial markets. Tumbling oil prices really sent shockwaves through many of the world's markets, starting with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which shed 331 points.
Yeah, that's right. Off the start of this new year, oil is making news once again, not looking to rebound from its downward spiral anytime soon. In fact, its drop appeared to quicken as oil prices fell below $50 a barrel on Monday, settling at $50.04 by the end of the trading day. As you said, the Dow shed 331 points, or 1.86%. as did the S&P 500, which fell by 1.83% as investors broadly sold off energy stocks. The trend was more of the same in Europe on Monday as well. Markets in Germany, France, and UK also showed red downward arrows in Paris, shedding 3.31%. Now, this has news that OPEC countries have only shown stronger resolve to raise oil production in a fight to protect their global market share against shale production in the U.S.
Yeah, it really is a battle between the Middle East and the U.S. over this, it seems, and oil prices have lost a staggering 55% of their value since June, or about half of their value, in fact, since June, when Brent crude was around $120 a barrel. But does this trend look like it's going to turn around anytime soon? What are the analysts saying?
Well, you know, as big of a hit as this was, analysts are not seeing much improvement, at least in the short term from what I'm seeing. Let's go ahead and hear what one of them had to say.
I would sit on the sidelines with oil stocks right now. We just don't know the direction of oil prices. We think it could go lower before it starts moving up.
Lower before it starts moving up, and this is in part because the lower demand for oil and gas on the global stage doesn't look to pick up, nor does that standoff, if you will, between OPEC countries and newcomer U.S. look to ease. Energy experts say this trend is likely to continue at least until the middle of this year, while a Citi research report said it doesn't see the oil market stabilizing until the end of 2015, though the average price of Brent crude will likely average closer to $60 a barrel. Mark.
Okay, Eunice, thank you ever so much. We'll see you back at noon, and we're going to take a look now at the global markets. Now, staying with economic news, but a little closer to home, and the number of jobs created in Korea last year hit a 12-year high. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But if we look a little closer at the figures, some factors make it seem a lot less encouraging. That's because most of the positions that opened up were either part-time or contract positions, and a lot of them were going to people in their 50s and 60s at the twilight of their career rather than those trying to get on the career ladder. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Statistics Korea says an average of 543,000 new jobs were created each month between January and November of 2014, which is the highest in 12 years. The country's employment rate also topped 65% last year, up nearly a percentage point from the previous year. And while the figures are encouraging, the state of the employment market is not. Young people in their 20s and 30s continue to struggle to find work. 20-somethings took up just over a tenth of those who got new jobs last year. Those in their 30s fared worse, recording an average 20,000 less jobs per month. In contrast, people in their 50s and 60s accounted for more than 4/5 of new jobs created in the 11 months. Compounding concerns is the fact that more than a third of the labor market, more than 6 million people, are contract workers. And to tackle that issue, the government has proposed plans to improve working conditions for them. This includes extending the contract period for temporary workers who are 35 and older to 4 years from the current 2. Analysts have also called for fundamental reforms to the current wage system that hands out raises to individuals based on how long they've been working, regardless of the quality of their work. The OECD says Korea has the 6th most complicated procedures among member countries for laying off a regular worker. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, foreign direct investment in Korea hit a record $19 billion last year. And Korean officials say that loosened regulations and more aggressive efforts to boost investor relations prompted international investors to plow more money into the country. Song Ji-sun reports.
Seoul proved to be an attractive investment destination for foreign investors last year, thanks to a wider network of free trade deals and government support for direct investment. According to the Trade Ministry, total foreign direct investment came to $19 billion last year, up more than 30% from a year earlier and topping the previous record set in 2012. By region, investment from China soared nearly 150% to $1.2 billion. China's investment portfolio was diverse as well, ranging from resort complexes to cultural contents and fashion. Investment from the U.S. also edged up, reflecting the economic recovery there, but the amount from Japan shrunk due to the weakening Japanese yen. Foreign direct investment rose across all sectors from manufacturing to services, especially in parts production and business consulting. The Trade Ministry said an easing of regulations coupled with a boost in investment sentiment following recent FDAs encouraged foreign investors to increase their input in Korea. Seoul is now looking to top the $20 billion mark in foreign direct investment in 2015. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, Korea is the world's #1 shipbuilder, accounting for roughly 1/3 of the global market share. However, tumbling oil prices and increased competition meant the nation's 3 biggest shipbuilders had a very challenging 2014, and this year is not exactly looking so good either, as our Park Ji-won reports.
Korea's major shipbuilders had a pretty tough time in 2014. Out of the country's 3 major players, only Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering had its order target last year. It received orders for 68 ships and an offshore plant. Korea's other major players, Hyundai Heavy Industries and Samsung Heavy Industries, both failed to hit their targets. Hyundai Heavy Industries had orders for 98 vessels worth more than $15 billion, but this was way below its goal of $25 billion. Market experts partly attribute last year's weak performance to falling global oil prices, which negatively affected demand for offshore plants and drill ships. Market uncertainties are expected to hamper business this year as well. The Export-Import Bank of Korea forecasts Vessel and marine plan orders to drop 12% this year compared to last year. Tough competition from competitors in China and Japan also poses a threat to the nation's shipbuilders. While Chinese shipbuilders have a market edge in producing small and mid-sized low-price vessels, Japan is gaining price competitiveness due to the weak yen. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the Korea women's national football team as head coach Yoon Duk-yeol held a press conference on Monday regarding the team's chances at the 2015 Women's World Cup in June. With the women's national team beginning their training session at the National Training Center in Paju, head coach Yoon sounded pretty optimistic over their chances for the upcoming 2015 Women's World Cup in Canada. With Park Eun-sun and Ji So-yeon at top as the two top strikers, he stated that their goal is to finish at least in the round of 16. Meanwhile, the team will compete in the Four Nations tournament in China starting on the 11th of this month. And now shifting over to swimming this time, where at the young age of 23, Asian Games gold medalist Chung Da-rae announced her retirement from the sport after years of trying to bounce back from her injuries. Now, the 23-year-old who made a splash in the swimming world when she won a gold medal during the 200-meter breaststroke event at the 2010 Guangzhou Asian Games had a bright future before a number of injuries to her knee, back, and shoulder sidelined her for a long time. And despite trying to bounce back from her injuries, she decided to retire from the sport in a recent interview as she hopes to continue her career in swimming now as a coach. Of course, she made her official debut at the young age of 16 during the 2008 Beijing Summer Games when she qualified for the 200-meter breaststroke. And staying in swimming this time with Park Tae-hwan, who despite a rather disappointing Asian Games in Incheon hopes to bounce back in time for the 2016 Rio Summer Games. In order to do that, he's looking for another place to train. And according to a close source to Park Tae-hwan, the Marine boy is set to make a trip to the U.S. on the 7th in order to find a training camp where he can prepare for the Summer Games in 2016. They added that with the lack of world-class swimmers in Australia, now he wants to compete with the best, and that country being the U.S. with names like Ryan Lochte, who's currently dominating the swimming world. And now finishing things off in baseball, where SB Nation, a renowned sports website, ranked the top shortstops in the majors. And what do you know, Kang Jung-ho is ranked 12th in the list. Now, despite the lack of progress in the contract talks between Kang Jung-ho and the Pittsburgh Pirates, SB Nation listed Kang Jung-ho ahead of Elvis Andrus for 12th in the shortstop ranking. They stated that while he won't have the power numbers he did in Korea, he has the potential to become a franchise player for the Pirates. Meanwhile, the deadline for the contract negotiations is January 20th. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, it's Seoul today according to the solar term, and it happened to be the coldest day of the year, and it surely got a lot colder today. Well, unlike yesterday when the Seoul saw the high reaching above 8 degrees Celsius, temperatures will remain on the freezing side today throughout the day, and it should get colder each day. And stronger gusty winds will blow in, bringing down the sensory temperatures, so stay bundled, though the skies will remain clear all day long. And here are the readings for today. Now, the afternoon high in capital will only make it to -1, while Daegu and Gwangju should peak at 7 and 6, and Busan will reach 10 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, lows and highs will be similar for Jeju Island, Daejeon and Dokdo, reaching to 9, 2, and 7 respectively later in the afternoon. But this round of cold snap will be short-lived as these things will get mild again just in time for the weekend. Well, that's all for now. Back to you, Mark, in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Jion, for the weather. It's just as long as there's no snow, I'm happy. Well, those are the stories we have for now. There are plenty more online, and we'll be back again with our next newscast at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.